Welcome to live on YouTube and on the deltalight.com live section of our website. We start today the second series, second edition of Designing the Future, following the first edition, which has been a very successful initiative. We thought to extend this to 5 additional appointments starting today. With the topic of design the future in the cultural environment, so museum, art galleries, etc. And we have 3 esteemed guests with us. We start from the left and the corner, so with Thomas Coldefy of Coldefy Associates from Paris and Lyon. Correct me if I'm wrong. Thomas, welcome.
Yeah. Hi.
Then we have, welcome. So then we have Korad Bujar. Is that the correct spelling of your name, Korad?
Yes.
Okay, from AP Valletta, again, esteemed firm and practice based in Malta, in Valletta, Malta. And then we have from the side of the educational and academic world, we have Pippo Ciorra, who is a senior curator of Maxi Museum and art critics, and with a big bio on the side of the cultural world. And so, thank you very much to everybody for participating with us today. We will start with a short, warm up. I will start with people asking, why are museum and culture crucial for a healthy and happy world and a healthy and happy society? You're muted, people. We don't.
Okay. I am. Hello.
Yes.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for trusting my wild opinions. I would look at this as I did in this last month in negative. I think if you look around Italy in these days, the country is more or less restarting. The beaches are full of people, restaurants, it's hard to find a table in a restaurant which is not in a historic city. What's missing? What's missing is what's still paying a big price to the crisis is education and culture. So we desperately need a physical presence, interaction, because this is where the culture springs out of the relation. So museums, schools, cultural institutions should be very aware of this role. I think it's very good that in Italy, museums are all open. I mean, we're working very hard, even though we're losing a lot of money, of course. We have like 25-30% of normal attendance. But the public space of the museum is full of people the whole day. The people come to the museum courtyard, they spend their time here, they close the cultural institution. So we need to play 2 roles at the same time. The first role is preservation of memory, production of culture. The other one is being a public hub open to people's culture, to people's life, to interaction. So I think if we are aware of this double mission we need to comply with in these times, we can play a role, which is focus role, which is the pivotal role for rebuilding and restarting our society.
I think there is some problem with the connection. I would like to pass that to Korad and ask Korad the same type of question. So why is culture so crucial for the design industry? And what would you say to an investor nowadays that maybe is thinking to being this a governmental client willing to invest on culture? How would you convince him to do that?
Well, I mean, it's clear that culture is a form of self-knowledge. And as you said, it is one of the main contributors to a happy existence. It comes all the way back from Socrates, know yourself, and then you can live a happier life, an examined life, which museums help us achieve. So it's a kind of, it's an expression of the human condition, which I think is indispensable. As Pippo said, it's part of our memory, it's part of where we're coming from, and it gives us a clue of where we might be going. I think museums have already had quite a big transformation recently as the world becomes more and more digitized. The digital museum is an extremely efficient tool. It is accessible to everybody, whatever the age, physical ability, income. So culture will continue to be accessible to people. But where does this leave the physical museum? I think another blow that perhaps the physical museum has experienced recently is the erosion of the idea of authenticity. I remember when I was studying in Rome and we were doing conservation and restoration, the idea, this wonderful brainwave of John Ruskin, that only something which is authentic can have value. Eventually, 20 years later, 30 years later, with the opening of the Asian markets, etc., began to be eroded to a certain extent. So in a way, that is a double-edged sword because it makes the museum an even more special place where you can go, and actually the experience of the museum is becoming as important as the works which it contains. So,
thank you.
I would say that, the museum is now having to deal with all these transformations, which are not only due to the pandemic.
Sure. And Thomas, what is your opinion about this? And how do you see at the moment, still we're not over it. So how has the pandemic influenced also the design of a museum where, by definition, people have to keep distance if they can, but of course we would like to see very crowded museum every day, and this is not possible now. So how do you see this?
Well, first I would say again that I strongly believe that culture and museum places they really have the power to transform societies in many ways. So of course we are facing a difficult time, but it's also a good time to always investigate and create new ways. But it's for sure that museums or culture are not only there to archive or the past, but also to use it in order to learn from it, to transmit, in order to better understand our present, or even to understand ourselves. So it is very key to be able to continue to investigate and to stimulate culture in the future. And I also believe that even so, museums are places, even from a physical perspective, it's a cultural institution that plays a role among as different players of modern cities, such as markets were doing it before, or even churches. So it is a key place to bring culture in. And as digitalization is coming more and more, I think, as you said before, nothing can replace the physical experience and the interaction with people in a museum, interaction with a piece of art. But also, I think we must believe that in the digital platforms that every museums are creating, there must be also opportunities for people who are not really keen on going to a place of culture or to a museum to scroll and choose and decide whether they want to go one time or go another time. So I think it's also a new consideration of how to use a digital platform in order to promote a museum that is more not a place you go only once in your lifetime, but you want to save some parts you haven't seen, and you look on the internet and you look on the platform, you say, this one I want to see it in real. So I will bring some change in the visitor habits also.
Well, for sure, because the COVID situation has impacted greatly the cultural world. Actually, the UN's Cultural Agency has been stating that 13% of the museum will not open again. How can we avoid this catastrophe, Thomas? What is your opinion?
No, you mean to so
to avoid the fact that the museum will have to close because of the impact of the COVID or the post-COVID?
Well, I think I mean, it's our role also as architects and urban planners to use different ways of programming museums. We talk about digital platforms, also the physical place, and the way we design museums in the future shouldn't be just an enclosed box as it is often known, or just beautiful piece of architecture, but a place to meet and to interact and to take benefits of the outdoor also expression and create new spaces where, I mean, people go to the museum also to find places to talk or to find interactive moment. I think the beauty of museum is also to have a place of debate in front of something you discover or something you want to see. So I believe in the capacity of also architecture not to be as static as it used to be, also to play a role in the human interaction and to offer new platforms. And if they have to be more open air, more outdoor spaces, and better use of the landscape to promote new encounters, that should be also something to consider.
Conrad, what is your opinion about this? How can we avoid this catastrophic situation for the cultural world?
I mean, my opinion is, as I look around me, that a lot lies in the hands of the curators of the digital museum, in the sense that everybody uses digital means today. And it can be very easy to rely totally on the digital world to collect your experiences and your knowledge. And a lot of the engagement which viewers will have depends on the content, and it depends on how this is designed in such a way that it is linked to the actual physical experience of the museum. Very often there is a tendency to see it as a finite experience, which is concluded in itself. Whereas it's quite important for there to be a link between the physical museum and the actual digital world to encourage people to actually go to the museum.
Okay, so people that when you've been, when Conrad said that it is up to the curator, you're being called in this conversation, basically. So what is your opinion, of course? Still, we have, you're muted, people.
Yes, because I don't want to bother.
No,
a few things that need to be said. First of all, this idea of, this European idea that culture is somehow linked to welfare is an important one. So we see my friends at MoMA, they are forced to fire people, or American museums that have to close because they not enough funding, because they are completely tied to the private system. In Europe, museums stay open because they are connected to the life of the community and they're funded by the community. MAXXI is an attempt to be complementary. We have 40% of our money is private, and we are losing a lot of them. But still, the fact that the museum is a national project and museums in Europe are considered somehow part of our cultural welfare is very important to keep them open. And I think this difference, as many differences between Europe and other places in the world is popping up in these days, which is very interesting for an observer. As for the digital museum, I think, we had a really crazy time, no? At the end of April, in May, when the physical museum was reopening, and at the same time, we were still working like hell to keep the digital museum alive and doing contents every day and taping and filming and talking, and at the same time preparing 5 exhibitions to reopen. in July, I hated. No, I hated this overlapping of the two things. So I think we need to understand the difference. I don't believe in the virtual museums. I believe in the physical. I live in Italy. There's so many real things you can go and see. Why should you see? But I believe that the digital tools can be very important to expand, as Conrad was saying somehow, to expand the agency of the museum. We can do communication. We can do education through digital. We are doing it. I mean, you do with the digital, you do a series of things you can't do with the physical. But the two things need to be complementary, but very different. I mean, the looking at a work of art through, if it's not a digital one, of course, but looking at a work of art in the digital screen, I don't care. I don't want to do that. But I want to do to produce and pursue other projects through the digital that expand the life of the museum. But we are very aware that the digital it's spending money. So you need to work with the real museum to produce money to work on the digital one, which is a very interesting and strange paradox.
Since you are, I continue with you people, ask you a question. You're in front of two architects who are specialized in this type of project, of cultural project. So is there something that you would like to ask them that they could, implement in their project in the future that maybe could help, to, improve the expectation, and attract more people to museum?
My background is architecture. I'm an architect. I even lost the competition for this museum. So I think Thomas was putting it very clearly before. I think the museum has to be an open piazza, an open hub for the city. So, I mean, galleries, they are more or less always the same. Architects since the 70s, museums have even too much power, I think, today. Compared to other cultural institutions, museums have an enormous power today because they spoke to both levels, the high level and the people level. The event and the memory, the architainment and the super intellectual exhibition. So I think architects are very good in doing museums. Our friends are, of course. I think what Thomas was saying before about the public role of the space. So using the extra space, extra compared to exhibition space of the museum to connect it to the life of cities and communities is today the most important part of it. And also Conrad suggesting that there should be, or maybe implicit suggestion, there could be something in the physical museum that connects you to the digital one, and vice versa, is also a good point, I think.
So I leave it to Thomas, for a reply to people's point of view.
Yes, thank you, people. Yeah, I mean, this is something we really focus on. As I was saying, I mean, there are so many already excellent museums with a lot of beautiful content. What we're exploring in our special time now is really to create better, not better, but new experiences and a lot of diverse experiences, focusing on the flexibility also of the museum, so it can adapt to such crises as the one we have. So, for example, now we're designing a museum in Florida, in Orlando, which is both memorial and a museum. So it's a very sensitive topic, and the idea here is to transmit a message of hope and to tell a story. But there's many ways to tell a story. It's through education, through looking at many artifacts, through engaging discussion in a very typical agora, as we were doing in ancient times, like a piazza of markets. And we have to shelter all this under an architecture that is no longer a very selfish piece of design, just made for being a landmark which please the people with power and the architect, but something that is more relevant for end users. and for making people feel connected to a positive. I think everyone is looking for positive moods, and what we can do is to engage more relationship with light, with outdoor space, to invite people coming from the streets that can find a shelter, and going into the museum, but even so to a cafe inside where there is a chat about this exhibition. It's really about finding many different ways, flexible ways to entertain people who have less and less time in today's world. So that's why they go on digital platforms. But the Museum of Tomorrow, for me, has great challenges to face. Is that also other kind of buildings that in a world of fast consumption, even the museum have to attract with new manners. Of course, the core idea of the museum is to educate and to transmit and to define the time where we live in. But I think our role as architects and planners and curators is to find many ways to tell stories. We know that from psychologists, people get more excited when there is more encounters, more in a urban planning. So in this project we do in Orlando, we also extend. We work with an artist who is designing interactive sculptures, so it also extends the experience after the walls of the museum, and just create what we like in the city, like beautiful encounters and discussions that were not really planned. So that's the way we really feel excited about or we can design better places, and the museum is part of it.
Thank you. Actually, I can't wait until I will hear somebody going to Orlando for a museum and not for a theme park. So yeah. We really welcome your project in Florida. Corrado, what about this viewpoint that Thomas and people expressed? What is your opinion about it?
Well, I agree. The museum is a place where people's identity is established, and where an identity is not something which is static, and where it continues to grow with new discoveries, new meetings. So a museum, by its very nature, should be open to serendipity, let's say. We are quite, at the moment, we're quite fortunate because at AP we're designing a museum which is going to contain the 29 tapestries which were designed by Peter Paul Rubens with the theme of the Triumph of the Eucharist. Triumph of the Eucharist, this was a kind of a very important anti-Reformation publicity stunt at the time. And in a way, it's extremely linked to our identity as a Catholic nation. So we're very conscious of the fact that what we're doing actually contains who we are, and the impression which these incredibly large tapestries make on the viewer is a bit what they would have done in the 17th century, where the world was less image rich. So a museum needs to be able to, in a way, sift the material, send a message, as Thomas was saying. It needs to tell a story, but on the other hand, it also needs to leave it open for people to create their own stories. So it's almost like a machine for the creation of stories, which needs the viewer or the visitor to participate in for it to be happening. So clearly, the physical museum is an extremely important moment in the life of somebody.
Of course, it's like in many other scenarios. Of course, what you can do with a physical interaction, you cannot do with a virtual one. That's clear. But of course, we are living in a world where this becomes more and more difficult. So, of course, we are talking about negative impacts, but there should be also some positive impact from this viewpoint, people. So what are the positive impact of this situation? How is this situation creating maybe crossover, collaboration, other form of scenarios that are useful for the cultural world.
No, I agree. Ever since like March, I think I've answered to 50 interviews asking me what's the impact of COVID in design and what will last. I went to visit my daughter in Milan last weekend, and I saw that in her room all the things she had it for the COVID, the little desk for home working, the little gym on the ground, they disappeared because more or less she's back to work. So what's staying? What's staying, I think, is the impact of infrastructure and technology. What we can take advantage of is the good use of this infrastructure and technology. I mean, last weekend I was sitting on a thesis committee in Los Angeles, and Monday morning I was sitting giving a lecture in Melbourne with very bad damage to my sleep, I have to say. But I mean, this possibility of interacting and implementing technology, but this can go to a higher level. Now, maybe somebody can operate its robot and build a car somewhere in Turin or in Cleveland by his own home, and you can have us talking to you now through the computer without traveling around. So there is a lot of impact, but I think the impact is mostly in this technology area. And I think we need to learn how to use this technology. I am awfully scared of the smart cities and on this control obsession which can come with it. But I think that the good use of technology in the field of our universities, our workplaces, our project can be what we get left in a good sense from the COVID situation. Also, we can be a little more respectful of the others, of the environment, but this will fade away. I hope not, but it may fade away sooner or later. But technology will keep increasing its presence. And in the museums, this means that also one of our missions has to be to bridge between culture and science. We need to bridge. I mean, everybody pushes us to bridge within culture and politics, of course, as you now think of the situation, but also we need to bridge with science. So we have this articulate and complicated mission, but I think it's challenging and interesting.
So more crossover with other type of society. Okay. And Konrad, your opinion about that?
Well, I think, progress is relentless. So whether we like it or not, that's the direction we're taking. So as Walter Benjamin said, we can look behind and look with nostalgia towards the past as much as we want, but there's no way we can avoid the fact that we are going in that direction. And if we don't play with it, we'll just get left behind. So clearly, as Pippo said, technology is going to be very important, and how we use it will require our imagination. I mean, I think part of the danger of these technologies is that we put aside our imagination. Young people going to a museum today, if they are told everything through an application and are not allowed to create within the fantasy of their mind the meaning of things, then those stories that we're talking about will never be created by the individual. They'll be created by the person who's curating. So I think technology needs to be used as a tool, but it should never be the end all of the museum.
Right. Thomas, of course, we heard two opinions about it. We would like to hear also your, and also I would add the fact that with the situation, less traveling and consuming brings also a positive element, like for our planet and our environment. So this is also something that we have to take into consideration. Maybe will motivate people to travel less or being more, connected on a non-physical way.
Yeah, for sure. I think we all just in the middle of the experience, because this was not planned. So I think the good question it raises is that for many people, we are just rethinking the way, I mean, and thinking, and we don't have the answer yet of the way we work, the way we live, the way we use technology. So of course it does create also maybe a distanciation between people who are on the train of getting that technology and makes best use of it. But it also, I guess some people will be successful in that reach, and but I don't truly believe that. I mean, we will live in a contactless world forever. So I imagine those new habits, I mean, is an experience of defining what is really important, what is really essential. Of course, I mean, this is global, and everyone is more asking the question of should I take the plane to go to this meeting? So I think it does place our time and the use of our time in a better way, and maybe in a more efficient way. So I would say it's in a very optimistic manner that nothing is. I mean, this period is long and it's painful, but I think it's something that will at some point take a hold. And in a way, if we want to remain positive, also the digital platform and the digital access that everyone is really fast reaching in getting at their home or at their work.
I think we go back to where we were at the moment that the communication interrupted. So we were talking about the future and the fact that anyway not everything is so negative about the impact of COVID. So we have probably a cleaner and a better planet. I don't know for how long this behavior will last. Then this is something I would like to ask to people. Do you think that this is a permanent behavior of the people, or will teach people, to be more sensitive about our planet, or do you think that it's just, an experience that will fade away?
Well, I'm a flight junkie now. No, it's 6 months I don't fly anywhere, and I was a travel addicted before. I liked it, but now I'm starting to feel a little anxious. So I think we will slowly. There is this beautiful quote from Hobsbawm, that to move the world, to move the world forward, we have to be able to forget. Otherwise, fear and scare will keep you still. So I think we will go back to the old normal, but some of the new normal will stay with us. It was not only technology, as you said before, but maybe a little deeper awareness of the consequences of our moves and choices. So hopefully some of this consciousness will be part of our tools in the future. On the other hand, I wouldn't mind, being able to go to see something I really want to see in Japan or in Brazil in the future, but maybe there will be a percentage, and some of those trips, some of those ways we do, some of that maybe can be spared on the base of this experience we're doing today. So I think some consciousness, some awareness would be a lot.
And Coran, your opinion about that?
Yes, I think our consciousness will be changed. I think the world of work will change irrevocably. The possibility of working remotely has become a reality. For many years, I've met advocates of working from home. It never really took off, but I think now this has really sealed the deal on the fact that one can work from home pretty efficiently. But that doesn't as well rule out the excitement and the serendipity of working together in the same space, which hopefully will not die.
Thomas, of course.
I'll agree with that, and in fact, also in our particular work as architects or urban planners, as you know, it's a collaborative process. It's a teamwork, and so as I was saying before it was cut, I was saying that I think there will be more consciousness about making the right choice of meeting together physically or digitally, but I think it will not avoid people from. I mean, we have to look at the way time and pace will advance on the economical impact, on the technological impact, and on the will of people. And they are all moving at a different speed. So everyone, I mean, we know that we can travel the world with a more advanced transportation, with less pollution, but this is not ready yet. So what do we do by the time? I mean, we still need to make the right choice where we need to go and to debate, to exchange our culture. And at the same time, I think also positive aspect of the digital platform that maybe some people yesterday did not have a relative interest in culture. They will be more accessible virtually, and that may be also kind of a positive impact of bringing people to new interests that they didn't have before.
Okay, let me ask a question which is, let's say, a little bit more linked to our world of lighting. Of course, we have spoken about, the fact that there will be changes on the way that project will be designed. With this, requested interaction in museum and scenographies, of course, there will be also a requirement for a different way of illuminating the project. Do you think that there will be remarkable changes in integration of lighting in future cultural projects?
Who is answering?
Well, I always, I start from Thomas and then we go.
Well, okay. Not a technical expert, but in terms of what we call, I always see new opportunities also, even with light. I mean, it's not a physical material we don't touch, and we're talking about something that that we may keep a few way of. I mean, not living in a touchless world, but I think the power of light and the technology of light in buildings can be further enhanced, and to make some use, to do some wayfinding, and also, I mean, for example, in the museum we're designing in Orlando, we're thinking of extending the message of the museum to a wider audience. Also, I mean, using the physical space and the power of light to touch people from a further distance, so that light can also send another message, a vertical message, for instance, in the project. So I believe in the power of human interaction, and I believe that light is playing a role. It can be a non-physical partition, can be a signal to see in the city. It can be something that to be used for communication. And at the same time, we're facing the less resources, and so there's a lot of technological effort, so that this light is less consuming energy.
Thank you, Konrad. What is your opinion about the use of light in a future project?
Light has always been used in all art forms. Light is what makes photography what it is. Painters have used light to render or to tell their story. Even poets, no? I mean, Keats and Shelley, the Romantics, they use light to describe a mood. So light is an integral part of a building. We live in a world where light is changing constantly. The setting sun, the rise, dawn, light is part of our lives. So even a building itself, architecture, is rendered by light. It's just an inextricable part of what we do.
So you don't see significant changes. I did think that this is going to be always part of a project.
Yes, of course. Then there's the technological side of light, the use of light in a dynamic way. But for as long as these technologies will continue to be part of the architectural process.
Sure. People, what is your opinion from,
I agree.
the museum?
I think light is one of the tools. It's one of the material for architecture and for exhibitions. So I think it's mostly about subjectivity. It's one of the platforms for negotiations between the curators, the architects, the preservationists, the registrar, the different professionals that collaborate to create a museum space. So I don't like the idea of like an objective or a shared approach to this light. I think it's mostly subjective, and it's one of the materials we use. If you want something more objective in relation to the changes that are taking place in our spaces, I think this has to be looked for more in like workspaces. Now, workspaces maybe will be more directly and consistently affected by the post-pandemic thing, and maybe the way you manage light in these spaces can be theorized in a way or another. In museums, I think it's a material, is a tool, it's a platform to meet different ideas and things. So we will have a million different solutions to the lighting problem in the future.
Of course, lighting is becoming much more flexible, much more controllable, and that will help, of course, to become also a better vehicle also in museum projects. Thomas told us about something exciting that's coming up for their offices in Orlando. Is there something that you can tell the audience, something exciting about your work for the future? What's coming up that you're looking forward to?
Actually, Max is a hyper-productive museum with like 30 exhibitions a year. So, but I mean, the one thing that may have some relations to what we're talking about today is a big show we're preparing for the end of next year on the evolution of the concept of engineering. Engineering, the 20th century was about construction, mainly about construction. So we will, even founding on our archives, which involve Nervi, Musumeci, and other wonderful engineers of the 20th century, we will tell stories about the construction engineering. But on the other side, we will investigating the role of engineering in the future, which will have to do a lot with technology, AI, robotics, environmental sciences, and all these things. Architecture is dangerously attracted to and has to go, but also has to be aware of its own focus and role. So this show, which is now called Technotopia, and I'm not sure this will be the final title, will be a big focus in our future.
Great. We look forward to that, and we'll make sure that I'll be there the first time that I'm in Rome. Yeah. And Corrad, what about you? What about your practice? Something exciting coming up that we should be looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to seeing these tapestries I mentioned to you, the 29 of them, all together, and to try and recreate the sensation that people must have had when they went to the church, when they went to the cathedral. We mustn't forget that they didn't have the images that we have today. And there in front of their eyes was this magnificent collection of woven surfaces using silk and of gold and silver, designed by Peter Paul Rubens together with Isabella di Infante of Spain way back in the 17th century. And yes, I'm sincerely looking forward to seeing that put together.
Thank you. Thomas, something else in addition to the Orlando Museum that we should keep in mind?
When we were talking, and it's linked to that debate, I was thinking about the Venice Biennale of Architecture, which have been missing that's been postponed for 2 times, and we were selected to do an exhibition during included in the exhibition for this next upcoming Biennale. And it raises all the question of this beautiful ancient city where people love, and are we able to travel there? When we are there, we're always questioning of the level of the water, and everything is on the table And at the same time, I was supposed to showcase some projects that we're working on, which one of them is it's called Tropicalia. It's tropical domes that we are going to build. That it's going to be starting, and it's an experience for visitors with fauna and flora, and also an innovative technology of how to build a shell. We call the exhibition Domus. Actually, how can we live together under one roof, and how can we share resources and actually using technology, but also technology as such as sun and the power of sun to heat a building or the power of cooling down a building is a very interesting topic that I would have liked to share, and I hope I will be sharing it in a few months in Venice.
We look forward to that. Hopefully, we will be able to go back to Venice for the Biennale this year, because I agree with you, we're missing it. So
yeah,
we definitely want to go back, hopefully, this year. Okay, so I would like to conclude, and of course, thanking everybody for the participation. I would like to conclude, starting from Pippo, with, let's say, as a wrap up, a final thought or message that you want to share with the audience that will, bring some positive message to them for the future.
I don't know, I was asked by Architectural Review to write a letter to young architects. My letter was about the need to go see buildings. So let's be ready when the time comes, when the chance will be to experience the space, to see buildings, to incorporate this experience in what we do. Although, because we cannot think of architecture only as entertainment, curatorial, theoretical discussion, or we need to experience space to go back to this beautiful experience as soon as it will be possible.
Thank you. This is a very nice message, and we all cross finger, keep finger crossed that everything can move in that direction. Thank you. Pippo, Corrad, your message to the world?
Well, during the isolation period, I had the opportunity to walk around the city. And it's amazing how many things you discover that you don't normally see, because the pace of our lives is so fast. And it was really fascinating to discover Malta as a place which is like a blend of cultures. The Knights of the Order of St. John came to Malta with their architects and their chefs and tailors. And it was really fascinating to walk down the streets and turn a corner, and I was in Rome, and then turn a corner, and I was in Paris, and turn a corner, and I was in Naples. It was these sort of things that you don't normally do when the pace of life is so fast. So sometimes it's not a bad thing to slow down and to look a bit more closely around you.
Thank you very much. And I leave it to Thomas to conclude with his message.
Yeah, so I think it's a very interesting time. Let's stay optimistic. I would say architects have to face new complexities, and we are dealing with, such as anxiety for the resources of the planet that were there before COVID, but are now more and more impacting our behaviors, and also trying to find a way to adapt existing buildings that are less and less adapted to climate change and contemporary use. So I believe that I would say that the power of creativity, and that we should always stay optimistic, that even so we go through a bad time sometimes, and after the storm comes the sun again.
That's great. So that's a very optimistic message. I think that after 2020, when this year will be over, probably will be more optimistic, because worse than this, I think it can go. And so I thank you very much I thank you, Thomas, Corrad, Pippo, for your participation. Thank you to the audience that has had the patience to listen. And I just remind you that the next Designing the Future initiative will be in 2 weeks. The subject will be landscape and urban planning. So we're going to have, again, 3 very interesting speakers from this world. And again, thank you very much on behalf of Delta Light and on behalf of our guest, and see you next time. Thank you.